In the heart of a timeless village nestled between the arms of vast mountains and endless sky, lived a woman named Zara. Her beauty was unmatched, eyes like stormy midnight, skin like burnished earth after rain, and a voice that could calm crying children and stir restless elders. Yet, behind her hypnotic allure lived a gnawing emptiness. At 27, Zara remained unmarried, childless, and whispered about. Men admired her. Women resented her. But no one truly saw her. And worse, no man dared ask for her hand. Some said she was cursed, others said she was too proud. Only Zara knew the truth. She was waiting for something more. One moonless night, desperate for clarity, Zara visited the oracle, a veiled woman named Malika, feared and revered. Inside a smoky hut heavy with herbs and silence, Malika spoke without being asked. "You carry a womb of prophecy. The man who fathers your child shall one day rule this village and usher in a new era of prosperity or destruction." Zara's breath caught. Hope ignited in her chest, fierce and terrifying. She left the hut with a pounding heart and a decision that would shake the very soul of the village. The morning after the prophecy was first spoken, Zara returned to the oracle's hut, needing to be certain it wasn't a fever dream. The air inside was thick with incense and secrets. Malika sat cross-legged, her face shadowed beneath layers of colored veils. Without lifting her head, she spoke. "You have come not for answers, but for confirmation." Zara nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Is it true?" Malika reached into a bowl filled with white ash and threw a handful into the fire. The flames burst into blue and green. "The ancestors speak clearly. Your womb is marked. The child you carry will inherit the land, not through inheritance, but through prophecy. But listen well, child, the father of this child is unknown to fate. It is you who must choose him, or all will be lost." Zara's brow furrowed. "How can I choose a man I do not love?" Malika leaned in close. "Love is not the currency of destiny. Action is." And with those final words, the oracle pressed a carved bone into Zara's palm, a talisman of fertility and fate. Zara stepped out into the sunlight with her decision made. She would do what no woman in the village had ever dared. The oracle's words haunted Zara's every breath. She couldn't ignore the weight of what was foretold. If her child would rule, then the father had to be chosen not by emotion, but by fate itself. But how does one find a destined man among many? One night, staring into the flames of her hearth, the answer came to her, clear, defiant, and unthinkable. She would sleep with every eligible man in the village. The plan was reckless, blasphemous, bold. But it was also the only way to give fate a fair chance. Within days, the whispers began. One by one, men entered her hut under the veil of night. Some came eagerly, others cautiously. Not all encounters were the same. Some were gentle, others quick. Many were silent. None were spoken of afterward. But Zara kept count. She marked each name, each union, in a sacred journal hidden beneath her bed. Her body became the vessel of prophecy. Her actions, a storm of scandal. The elders were silent, unsure how to react. The women sneered. The men watched her with curiosity, fear, and hunger. Zara did not flinch. She had surrendered to fate, now she waited for it to respond. By the second week, Zara's name danced on every tongue in the village. Whispers followed her like shadows, soft in the morning, sharp by nightfall. Children were hushed when she passed. Elders looked away, pretending not to see. Women muttered curses behind her back, calling her vile, unclean, desperate. But still, they watched. Men, however, looked at her differently. Some with pride, some with shame. All with curiosity. Those who had visited her carried themselves with quiet arrogance, as if touched by destiny itself. Those who hadn't wondered if they were next, or if they had been silently rejected. Zara walked among them without apology. Her chin high, her steps calm. She had become myth, a woman feared and desired in equal measure. To some, she was a living sin. To others, a vessel of divine will. When the village gathered at the market, her name was always just beneath the surface. "She's poisoning our daughters," one woman spat. "Or she's protecting us from the wrong ruler," another whispered. No one truly knew what drove her. But the story was no longer just hers. It had become a reckoning, forcing the village to confront its beliefs about sex, power, and prophecy. Months passed, and Zara's belly swelled with new life. The village, once quietly scandalized, was now fully engulfed in chaos. The prophecy had taken root in every household, igniting ambition, rivalry, and unrest. For what once seemed like madness now bore the seed of power. The moment her pregnancy became undeniable, everything changed. Men who had visited her hut began stepping forward, not with shame, but with prideful urgency. Each claimed the unborn child as his own, not out of love, but lust for the throne foretold by the oracle. Families began aligning themselves with their sons' claims. Factions formed, old friends turned to rivals, and gossip turned into strategy. Some even tried bribing the elders, offering cattle and coin for political favor. The Council of Elders, unprepared for the storm, held emergency meetings in hushed tones under the baobab tree. They feared the prophecy's power more than they admitted. The village teetered between spiritual awe and political unrest. Meanwhile, Zara remained eerily calm, her hand resting on her belly as if she already knew what others didn't. "Let them fight," she whispered once to herself. "The child will choose his own truth." And deep within her, that truth was already growing. As Zara's pregnancy reached its final days, the village elders, now desperate to determine the true father, called for a sacred trial, one that would separate the genuine from the opportunistic. The Mountain of Spirits, an ancient and treacherous peak far beyond the village, had long been known for its spiritual significance. Legends whispered that only the purest of heart could survive its trials. A messenger was sent to summon the men who had claimed the child as their own. They were to embark on the journey to the mountain, where their mettle would be tested by the spirits. The challenge would be brutal: harsh winds, dangerous paths, and riddles that only the worthy could solve. Yet the promise of power was too great for any man to decline. The village watched in anticipation as the men began to prepare. Some sharpened swords, others packed provisions, and a few even prayed to the gods. Yet, beneath their preparations, there was an unspoken tension. They were not merely fighting for Zara's child, they were fighting for the right to rule. Zara, silent in her own home, knew the mountain would not only reveal the strongest man, it would reveal the truth. The journey to the mountain was treacherous, and as the men ascended its rocky slopes, their confidence began to waver. The trials were harsh, designed not only to test their physical strength but to challenge their minds and spirits. One by one, men faltered. Some failed to answer the riddles posed by the mountain's ancient spirits, others turned back, unable to withstand the brutal climb. Among them was Alec, a humble and thoughtful man known more for his wisdom than his brawn. As the others struggled with brute force, Alec took a different approach. He listened to the mountain, heeding the whispers in the wind and interpreting the signs around him. Where others fought, he sought understanding. When he reached the summit, the spirits greeted him not with words, but with a deep, resonant hum that vibrated through the air. He stood, calm and resolute, as the spirits surrounded him. It was not his strength they sought, but his clarity of mind and purity of heart. The elders, watching from the village below, recognized the signs. Alec, not the strongest but the wisest, had been chosen by the mountain. He was declared the father. The night was still, the moonlight casting long shadows across the village. Zara, restless and troubled by the weight of the prophecy, wandered near the oracle's hut. She needed answers. Her heart was heavy with uncertainty, and the idea that her life had been manipulated began to gnaw at her soul. As she approached, she heard murmurs, low and secretive. She stopped, hiding in the shadows, straining to listen. It was the oracle's voice, filled with an unfamiliar sense of urgency, and Alec's voice, the man declared to be the father. "I told you this was the only way," the oracle whispered. "You had to be the one." Zara needed a man who could believe in the prophecy, no matter the truth. She would never have chosen you otherwise. Alec's voice, calm yet tinged with doubt, replied, "But what if she finds out? What if she knows it's all been a game?" The oracle laughed softly. "She'll never know. It's too late now. The ceremony will seal it." Zara's breath caught in her throat. The truth was more painful than she could have imagined. The entire prophecy, the journey, the trial, it was all a lie. Everything had been manipulated for some unknown purpose. The feeling of betrayal burned through her. The village gathered by the river of truth, the sacred place where all judgments were meant to be sealed. The air was thick with anticipation, the entire community waiting for the final ceremony. Zara stood at the river's edge, her hands trembling, but her heart filled with a quiet resolve. The oracle had prepared for this moment, anointing Alec as the father, the king-to-be. But Zara had spent the night in deep reflection, her mind racing through ancient texts and teachings passed down from her ancestors. She knew something had been wrong all along. She felt the truth coursing through her veins, waiting to be unleashed. As the ceremony began, Zara stepped forward, breaking tradition. "This ritual," she declared, her voice strong and steady, "is not the path of destiny, but of deception." The crowd gasped in shock as Zara held up an ancient relic, a stone carved with symbols only a few knew how to read. "This relic," she said, "is the key to revealing the truth. The true king is not the one chosen by this staged prophecy. It is I, the mother, who holds the power. The village's future lies not in the men who sought to control it, but in the wisdom of the women who guide it." The river's waters shimmered, as if acknowledging her words. The twist in the prophecy was not about bloodline, it was about the strength of spirit. Everything had changed. The village was still in shock, the reverberations of Zara's revelation spreading through the air like wildfire. In the heart of the gathered crowd, the true father of her child was revealed not by strength or blood, but by the wisdom and integrity he had shown throughout the trials. It was Mirek, a humble healer who had silently supported Zara's journey without desire for power. His quiet, steady presence had been overshadowed by the loud, proud claims of the other men, but now it was clear that his calm, genuine care for Zara had proven him worthy. As the village leaders stood in judgment, they did not hesitate to punish the men who had sought power by deceit. Alec, who had falsely claimed fatherhood, was exiled. The others, too, faced consequences. Some were cast out, while others were made to serve the village in humbling ways. The air of dominance that had permeated the village began to shift. Zara stood at the center, finally choosing Mirek as her partner, not for the throne, but for the simple love and trust they shared. The village entered a new age, one where true fatherhood was defined by love and wisdom, not power. A fresh beginning dawned, and Zara's child would grow in a world where honor, not conquest, ruled.